Wife pushed for an open marriage, said, "You won't have girls lining up for you anyway." Now she's begging me to take her back, but I can't even stand her anymore. You won't have girls lining up for you anyway. That was the exact sentence my wife, now soon to be ex-wife, threw at me across the kitchen table one Wednesday night, right before she suggested we open our marriage. And now, she's the one calling, texting, and begging me to work on us. Funny how things flip. We'd been married for 5 years, together for almost 7. We met in college when I was this quiet, nerdy business major, and she was the confident, social communication student who could walk into any room and have a group laughing within minutes. When we first started dating, I was genuinely shocked she even noticed me. I wasn't bad looking, but I wasn't the kind of guy people stared at. She made me feel like I mattered, like I was someone worth showing off. But here's the thing. People don't just change overnight. The cracks had been forming for a while. The last year or so, she had gotten restless. More nights out with her coworkers, more talk about freedom and self-discovery. I chalked it up to just being in different phases of life. I was focused on building my career. She seemed to be searching for something. Then came that kitchen table conversation. It started like any normal Wednesday night. I came home, dropped my bag by the couch, and she was already sitting at the table with her laptop, sipping wine. I thought she was working. Instead, she closes the laptop, looks me dead in the eye, and says, "I've been thinking maybe we should try an open marriage." I laughed at first because honestly, I thought she was joking. What, like dating other people? That's not really my thing. Her expression didn't change. I just think monogamy feels restrictive. I love you, I want to stay with you, but I also want the freedom to explore. We could both see other people. No secrets, total honesty. It wasn't just the suggestion that stung, it was the tone. Like she was presenting me with some progressive, enlightened idea, and I was the caveman clinging to outdated values. I told her I wasn't comfortable with it. That's when she rolled her eyes, sighed, and said the line that burned into my brain. You won't have girls lining up for you anyway. It's not like much will change for you. She might as well have stabbed me in the chest. For the next 2 weeks, I wrestled with it. She kept bringing it up in the car while we cooked dinner, even before bed. Always the same argument. We'd still be us, we'd just have more experiences. Don't you trust me? Trust wasn't the issue, respect was. But in a moment of weakness and probably fear of losing her, I caved. We set some rules, which, looking back, were hilariously one-sided. No close friends, no one we worked with, full transparency, and we could veto people. She seemed way more excited about the arrangement than I was. The first month was exactly what I expected. She jumped right in. She started seeing a guy from her office, a tall, fit marketing dude who looked like he belonged in a sports drink commercial. She tried to be subtle, but she'd come home late smelling like his cologne, and her phone would blow up with his name lighting up the screen. Me? I had nothing. I didn't even know how to start. I hadn't dated since I was 21, and the idea of jumping into dating apps was overwhelming. I figured maybe she was right. Maybe no one would line up for me. But here's the thing. When people smell change, they notice. It started small. A woman at my gym, someone I'd seen around for months, suddenly started chatting with me between sets. A barista at my regular coffee shop gave me her number on the back of my receipt. Even one of my wife's friends, we'll call her Kara, drunkenly told me at a group dinner that I clean up well and should make the most of it. At first, I brushed it off, but then a thought hit me. If I was going to be stuck in this humiliating arrangement, I might as well stop feeling like the pathetic husband left behind. I upgraded my wardrobe, nothing crazy, just better fitted clothes. I started hitting the gym harder, actually following a routine. I got a proper haircut instead of my usual just trim it special. By month 3, I didn't even recognize the guy in the mirror. Meanwhile, my wife's freedom started showing cracks. She came home one night and noticed I was on my phone, laughing at something. "Who's that?" she asked casually. "A friend," I said, which was technically true. A very attractive friend I'd met at the gym. That was the first time I saw that flicker in her eyes. Jealousy. She tried to hide it, but over the next few weeks, I caught her subtly checking my phone, asking more questions about where I was going and who I was with. The kicker, Kara, her friend, who'd made that comment, had started texting me more often. Nothing inappropriate, yet. But my wife noticed, and it bothered her. One night, she came home from a date looking annoyed. She barely touched her dinner. I asked if something was wrong. "It's fine," she muttered, staring at her phone, but she wasn't fine. I didn't push. Later that night, while I was brushing my teeth, I heard her in the bedroom, pacing. She was on the phone with someone, whispering angrily. I caught one phrase. "You can't just end things like this." I smiled to myself. By the end of that month, the energy in our house had shifted completely. She had started this whole thing thinking she'd have endless options while I sat at home. But now, she was the one watching me leave the house with a smile on my face, She was the one trying to start conversations about quality time again. She didn't know it yet, but the power dynamic had flipped, and I wasn't sure I wanted to give it back. If chapter 1 of my life was the humiliation, this was the flip. It's strange how quickly people's perception of you changes when you change, and I don't just mean physically. Sure, I dropped some weight, gained some muscle, and traded my baggy hoodies for clothes that actually fit. But more than that, I carried myself differently now. I wasn't the guy sitting at home waiting for his wife to come back from a date. I was out meeting people, laughing, enjoying myself, and people noticed. It started with the gym. There was this brunette, gorgeous, lean, with a smile that could cut through the worst Monday who I'd seen for months but never spoken to. One day, she just walks over mid-set and says, "Hey, I've seen you here a lot lately. You've been putting in serious work." We talked for maybe 3 minutes, but when I got home that night, my wife, who'd been on the couch scrolling her phone, immediately clocked the grin I didn't even know I was wearing. "What's got you smiling like that?" she asked. "Oh, nothing. Just had a good workout." That flicker of suspicion returned. Then there were the social events. We'd been invited to a mutual friend's birthday party, one of those casual backyard things with a mix of old college friends and random plus ones. I wasn't planning on going, but then I thought, why not? When we got there, she immediately split off to chat with her friends. I found myself talking to this tall redhead in a sundress. We hit it off, nothing flirtatious, just easy conversation. But every time I glanced over, my wife's eyes were darting in our direction. Later that night, when we got home, she tossed her bag down harder than necessary. "Who was that?" she asked. "Who was who?" I replied, deliberately keeping my voice casual. "That girl you were talking to all night, just someone at the party. We were talking about travel." She didn't respond, but she didn't need to. I could feel the tension radiating off her. Meanwhile, her adventures weren't going as planned. The so-called hot coworker had gone from constant texting to barely replying. I overheard enough late-night phone calls to know that he wasn't treating her with the same energy she gave him. And when he finally ghosted her for a week, she moped around the apartment like a teenager after a breakup. I didn't ask, I didn't comfort, I just went on with my life. Around this time, Kara, yes, that Kara became more present. It started with casual messages, memes, inside jokes, "We should all hang out sometime." But then it shifted to, "You should come out with us. Your wife never wants to go dancing, but I bet you'd have fun." I wasn't stupid. I knew where this could go, but I also knew the optics would destroy my wife if she thought her friend was into me. So one night, I agreed to go out. We ended up at a rooftop bar with a group of people I barely knew. Kara stayed close the whole time, laughing at my jokes, touching my arm when she talked. I didn't cross any lines, but I didn't push her away either. At one point, someone offered to take a group picture. Kara slid next to me, her arm looping around my waist like it was the most natural thing in the world. The flash went off, and I knew my wife was going to see that photo eventually. I didn't have to wait long. The next morning, she walked into the kitchen holding her phone like it was a crime scene photo. "Care to explain this?" she asked, spinning the screen toward me. "It's a picture from last night at the bar. You know, the one you didn't want to come to." Her voice went icy. "Kara's my friend. I just sipped my coffee." "Right. And we're allowed to have friends, aren't we?" By now, I could tell she was scrambling to get control back. She started initiating more date nights at home, cooking together, watching movies, even suggesting we go on weekend trips. But it wasn't out of love. It was out of fear. Fear that the thing she'd taken for granted was slipping through her fingers. One night, she came into the bedroom wearing lingerie I hadn't seen since our honeymoon. "We never do this anymore," she said softly, trying to close the space between us. I looked at her, really looked, and felt nothing. The most surreal moment came a week later. I'd just finished a workout and was grabbing a smoothie when my phone buzzed. It was her. "Where are you?" "Gym." "Why?" I was hoping we could have dinner together tonight." "That's fine," I said. "I already have plans though." Silence on the other end. By the end of that month, it was crystal clear. She was losing her grip on the dynamic she'd set in motion. She was no longer the one with options. She was no longer the one holding all the cards. The insult she'd thrown at me that no one would line up for me had aged like milk. And now, she was starting to realize that maybe she'd opened a door she couldn't close. By the time month 6 rolled around, I barely recognized the woman I'd married, and I don't mean physically. I mean in the way she carried herself around me. Gone was the confident, self-assured wife who'd pitched an open marriage like it was a TED Talk on modern relationships. In her place was someone tentative, second-guessing her words, watching me like she was afraid I'd vanish. It all started with one text. Her. "We need to talk." Me. "About what?" Her. "Us. Can we do dinner tonight?" I almost said no, but curiosity got the better of me. We ended up at this Italian place we used to love. She was already there when I walked in, wearing a dress I remembered from our second anniversary. She even had her hair done the way she used to when we first dated. It was almost sad. She spent the first 15 minutes making small talk, avoiding the real reason she'd asked me out, but eventually She sighed, set her fork down, and said it. I don't want to do this open marriage anymore. I didn't say anything. Just waited. I miss us. I miss how we used to be. I thought this would be exciting, but I was wrong. I want to go back to just you and me. The old me, the guy from 6 months ago, would have jumped at the chance. I would have felt relief, maybe even joy, that she chose me again. But now, I just felt, detached. You know, I said, when you first brought this up, I told you I wasn't comfortable. You told me no one would line up for me anyway. And now you want to undo it like it never happened? She looked down at her plate. I didn't mean that. I was just trying to convince you. Yeah, well, it worked. And look where we are. Over the next few weeks, she doubled down on the effort. Suddenly, she was making my favorite breakfast again, leaving little notes in my work bag, suggesting trips to places we'd always talked about visiting. She started complimenting me more, too, the same kind of compliments she used to reserve for strangers when she thought I wasn't listening. You've really gotten in shape. That shirt looks amazing on you. You seem happier lately. And she was right. I was happier. Just not with her. The jealousy reached new levels one Saturday night. I was getting ready to go out, not even on a date, just drinks with some friends. I just put on a fitted button-down when she appeared in the doorway. Going somewhere? She asked, trying to sound casual. Yeah, meeting some people downtown. Who? A couple of guys from the gym and a friend. Her eyes narrowed. A friend? Male or female? Doesn't matter. We stared at each other for a moment, the air thick with things neither of us wanted to say. Finally, she crossed her arms. I just think it's funny, she said, how when we opened the marriage, you had no one. And now you're out every weekend. I smiled. Yeah, it is funny. The final straw came a week later. I was at a mutual friend's barbecue when she showed up unexpectedly. She wasn't invited, not that she was banned or anything, but it wasn't her crowd. Still, there she was, in a sundress, acting like we'd walked in together. When I started chatting with a woman I'd met through a friend just chatting, she swooped in, grabbed my arm, and pulled me aside. What are you doing? She hissed. Talking. That's allowed, right? You're embarrassing me. I actually laughed. You think I'm embarrassing you? You started all of this, remember? Later that night, she called me. Her voice was shaky, almost breaking. Please, can we just try again? For real this time. I'll delete my dating apps. I won't talk to anyone else. I just want you. I sat there in silence for a long moment before answering. I don't think I can anymore. There was a pause. Because of someone else? No, because I like my life the way it is now. And you're not part of it. After that, things shifted permanently. She stopped coming around as much. The text slowed down. Friends started asking questions, whispering about how she messed things up and how I seemed to have landed on my feet. It wasn't revenge, not really, it was just balance. She made a bet and she lost, and the man she bet against, he wasn't hers to win anymore. Update 1. So, remember when I thought that telling her I don't think I can anymore would be the end of it? Yeah, no. If anything, that was just the starting gun for whatever marathon of desperate, awkward, and occasionally hilarious moves she was about to pull. It started 2 days after that final phone call. I was walking into the gym when I saw her car in the parking lot. That might not sound strange, except she doesn't work out there, never has. She's a yoga once a month kind of person, and my gym is more iron plates and chalk dust than scented candles and stretching mats. Sure enough, I found her inside, standing near the free weights, holding a water bottle like it was a foreign object. Oh, hey, she said, all casual, like we just happened to bump into each other in the detergent aisle. Hey, I replied, not stopping. I just, thought I'd check the place out. You always talk about it. I didn't call her out on the obvious lie. I just went about my workout. But every time I glanced up, she was hovering nearby, pretending to look at machines she clearly didn't know how to use. By the time I left, she was still there, doing bicep curls with weights so light they probably belonged in the daycare section. Then came the accidental run-ins. One Friday night, I was grabbing dinner with a couple of friends downtown. Midway through my burger, I felt a tap on my shoulder. Wow, what are the odds, she said, standing there in a low-cut top, pretending like she didn't already know exactly where I'd be. I don't believe in coincidences that wear perfume I bought for them 2 Christmases ago. It escalated when I went on a weekend trip with someone new. I hadn't plastered it all over social media, but my friend tagged me in a photo me at a scenic overlook, laughing with a very obvious feminine hand on my arm. I didn't even realize it until my phone lit up with messages from her. Wow, guess you moved on fast. Me. We've been over this. Please stop. Her. I just think it's sad that you're replacing me with someone who doesn't even know you. What she didn't know was that the woman I was with actually knew a lot about me. More than my wife ever bothered to ask in the last year of our marriage. The weirdest part? Friends started pulling me aside with little bits of gossip about her. Apparently, hot coworker dumped her hard. Like, stopped returning calls, unfollowed her on Instagram, and started dating someone else within a week. She tried to spin it like she was the one who ended things, but people knew. And worse for her, the coworker hadn't been kind in the way he talked about her. One buddy told me, yeah, he called her an easy rebound after his last breakup. Not a great look. I won't lie. Hearing that was satisfying in a petty karma just paid a visit kind of way. The most intense encounter came one rainy Tuesday night. I'd just gotten home from work, tossed my bag on the couch, and was making a sandwich when there was a knock at my door. It was her. She was soaked from the rain, mascara streaked, hair plastered to her face. Can we talk, please? She said, shivering a little. Against my better judgment, I let her in. She went straight into this speech about how she'd made a huge mistake, how she'd been chasing something empty, and how she finally realized that I was the person who truly loved her. I just stood there, leaning against the counter, letting her talk. When she was done, I said, I hear you, but it's too late. She cried, asked if we could at least spend some time together, and when I said no, she left without another word. I figured maybe that would be the last attempt. I was wrong again, because a week later, I found out something about her hot coworker that made me laugh out loud in the middle of the grocery store, and it was about to make this whole thing even messier. Update 2. So, remember when I said I found out something in the grocery store that made me laugh out loud? Yeah. I might have laughed loud enough for the guy stocking cereal to glance over like I just lost my mind. Here's what happened. I ran into my buddy Eric while grabbing groceries. He's one of those guys who's always got an inside scoop because he works in HR for a company that you guess it has ties to my wife's old workplace. We're catching up, and then he smirks and says, So, I heard about your wife's boy toy. I raise an eyebrow. Boy toy. Hot coworker. Apparently, the guy wasn't just seeing her. He was juggling 3 other women, one of them being the girlfriend of his roommate. And the kicker? He never saw her as anything serious. Told people she was an easy lay because she was married and looking for fun. I swear I almost dropped my basket. The more Eric talked, the worse it got for her. Apparently, this coworker had a reputation for chasing women who were either already in relationships or emotionally vulnerable. He'd brag about turning wives into side chicks. And he'd been very vocal about my wife, telling people she begged to see him and that she'd ditch her husband at the drop of a hat just to meet up. In other words, she thought she was living her Sex and the City fantasy, but to him, she was just Tuesday night entertainment. I didn't plan to tell her. Honestly, I wanted to stay as far out of her drama as possible. But here's the thing about mutual friend circles. News travels faster than you can say reputation damage. Within 2 days, she knew. And from what I heard, it wasn't from me, but from another friend who'd overheard hot coworker talking at a bar. She was furious, not at him, apparently, but at me. She texted me. Her. Did you tell people about me and coworker? Me. Nope. You told other people when you bragged about your open marriage. This is just the other half of the story getting out. Her. You think this is funny? Me. A little. Yeah. The fallout for her was brutal. Friends who had once hyped her independence were now ghosting her. A couple of the women in her circle outright told her she was reckless. Even Kara, yes, that Kara distanced herself, suddenly too busy to hang out. And then came the most surreal moment. She showed up at a mutual friend's birthday party one I almost didn't attend and tried to act like nothing had happened. But after a few drinks, she cornered me in the kitchen. I just want us to start over, she said, her voice low so no one else would hear. We can forget the last 6 months. I'll be a better wife. I looked at her, and for the first time, I didn't feel anger or resentment. I just felt done. In what world? I said quietly. Do you think I'd take you back after everything you've said and done? Now, here's where things took a turn I didn't expect. A couple days later, I got a call from my new girlfriend. We'll call her Leah. She was calm, but her first words were, Your ex just messaged me. Apparently, my wife had reached out to Leah directly, warning her that I was unstable, that I couldn't be trusted, and that I'd cheat on her the way I'd been cheated on. She even included a long-winded message about how I wasn't really over her and that Leah should watch out. The only problem? Leah already knew everything. I told her from the start about the open marriage, the insult, the whole messy situation. So instead of getting rattled, Leah sent me a screenshot and said, She's clearly still obsessed with you. Should I block her or just keep letting her embarrass herself? We both laughed about it. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. My wife wasn't just trying to win me back anymore. She was trying to sabotage anything I had without her. And when someone's operating from that level of desperation, you know there's going to be one last blow up before it's truly done. Update 3. I honestly never thought I'd be writing the final part of this saga, but here we are. When I last left off, I had just agreed to meet Emily one last time after her countless apologies and her sudden epiphany about our relationship. I met her at a quiet little park near the lake. It was sunset, the kind of setting that would have made a great romantic scene in another lifetime. But this wasn't that. She looked tired, almost defeated, like the weight of the last year had finally caught up to her. She started off with the usual more apologies, more crying, more, I didn't realize what I had until I lost it. She told me she'd cut contact with all the guys she'd been seeing, that she was in therapy, that she'd been reading books about rebuilding trust. She even pulled out a notebook with relationship goals she'd written down. In another version of my life, maybe that would have moved me. Maybe I'd have been touched. But as she spoke, I realized something. I felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, not love. Just nothing. I told her exactly that. I told her I wasn't meeting her to see if we could fix things. I was meeting her to tell her I'd finally closed the door. That whatever feelings I once had were buried under the rubble she created the day she pushed for an open marriage. She tried to argue. She tried to remind me of our good years. She tried to say we could start fresh. I shook my head and told her, you were right about one thing back then. I didn't have women lining up for me. But the thing is, I didn't need them. I just needed my wife to want me, and you didn't. So I stopped needing you too. She broke down. I stayed calm. I wished her well and left. No big dramatic exit, no yelling, just quiet finality. Since then, I've been moving forward faster than I expected. I've been dating casually, but more importantly, I've been living. Hiking trips, new hobbies, dinners with friends. I even adopted a rescue dog named Max, who's somehow better company than most humans I know. Emily still sends me occasional emails, usually short updates about her life or checking in. I don't respond. I don't hate her, but I also don't owe her space in my head anymore. If there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's that self-respect is a one-way street. Once you hand it over, it's hell trying to get it back. I'm just glad I took mine and ran. So no, I didn't take her back. No, there's no dramatic, we worked it out ending. This is my happy ending, not with someone else, not with a grand romance, but with me finally being at peace with walking away from someone who couldn't see my worth until it was too late. And honestly, that's enough.